Hey, what's going on YouTube? Adam C here. Thanks for watching. Adam C Solo on Instagram. So if you're in the fish keeping hobby or any hobby in general, you know you've probably gotten into it a little bit too quickly. You've probably spent too much money on it, or really you've probably bypassed the entry level and gone right to the expert level and probably regretted it. So here's two guests of mine. They're going to share their stories of getting into the hobby a little bit too quickly and getting in too deep. And then I'll follow them up with my story as well. So make sure to sub both of them. And thanks for watching.
Hey Adam, how you doing? Ben Ochart here. And the question was a time when I felt like I'd gotten in too deep or over my head. And for me, the answer is it has to do with the types of fish I was keeping. I had a mixed tank originally, a 60-gallon that was mixed, and you know, those tank setups work until they don't work. And it reached a point where the Buna had become big enough where they could harass the peacocks, and it got kind of ugly in there. Even ones that had been relatively peaceful, like the yellowtail and the lab, started to really create a lot of havoc for the peacocks. And I realized that there was more that I needed to learn about what fish to keep. I also had a Venusis that was in that 60-gallon, which is really too small for a Venusis after they take on size. This one got up to about 6 inches, maybe a little larger. You can see him in some of my very early videos. And he really claimed the entire 60-gallon as his tank, as his territory. And what that meant is he corralled the rest of the fish into one side of the tank, and he pretty much ruled the roost. And so there was more for me to learn there. A Venusis needs at least something like a 6-foot tank, like the one behind me here, at least 6 feet to go back and forth. So for me, the times I've realized I was in too deep has to do with realizing that my enthusiasm exceeded my level of knowledge in the hobby. And like many fish keepers, I went and did the research after the catastrophe, after having to rehome some fish, and some fish that I really enjoyed. I had an Aratus Buna that was beautiful when I picked him up. We nicknamed him Taxi. He was yellow with the black stripes, and he became all black. Turned out to be a very aggressive, very pretty, but very aggressive male that proceeded to harass the other fish relentlessly. It just would never stop. And so the truth is, he shouldn't even have been in there. And so for me, getting over my head or in too deep has been having my desire to acquire or have certain kinds of fish actually exceed my level of knowledge about the hobby, and making mistakes like that end up costing time and money, and of course having to rehome the fish or put them on Craigslist or keep them isolated because they're too destructive. So there you have it. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So happy holidays to you, Adam, and thank you for including me in this collaboration.
What's up, YouTube? Thanks for the spot, Adam. So Adam wanted me to speak on what are some of the things that I have done in the aquarium hobby that let me know that I have went too far. Well, there's a lot of those things. I'm going to name 3 in particular. 1, creating a private bank account just to purchase fish and supplies. 2 would be setting up the tanks that I have in my garage. And 3 would be spending majority of my free time browsing the internet looking for deals on fish at some of the well-known fish providers, such as Dave's Rare Aquarium Fish, some of the guys on Facebook, such as Anthony, Southeast Cichlids, Butch Livingston, blah, blah, blah. But again, guys, that would be separate private bank account Also, setting up the tanks in my garage, and again, spending too much time on the internet looking for fish, tanks, and deals. Thanks again for the spot, Adam C. Peace.
So you can see there, Ben tried to mix every fish that he liked into one tank, and maybe he struggled with it. And IFG hides money from his wife. I think that's the summary of those two videos, as best I can think of. Just kidding. But my story is the moment that I knew I was really too deep in the hobby. There was a time I was supposed to go to work. I was scheduled to go to work, and I also had a fish arriving that same day at the local FedEx pickup, which is like 45 minutes away. And it was snowing outside, it was icy outside, enough to where I was, our work called off, and I was allowed to stay home. I didn't even have to go in because they were worried about my safety driving into work. But you know what I did? I still drove to the FedEx pickup facility 45 minutes away, 45 minutes in good conditions to pick up that fish and bring it back home. So it was supposed to be 45 minutes each way, ended up being 2 hours each way. But you know what? I got the fish home. It was one of my favorites, and I honestly don't regret it. But driving through that snow, when I'm seeing cars off to the right, cars off to my left, in the ditch, thinking, if I get in an accident and have to file an insurance claim over picking up a fish, my wife legitimately may murder me. She might actually end my life. Not really, but I thought how stupid it was that I was doing that. But I had no hesitation. I was ready to go. I got right in the car, and I went. So this hobby takes you in strange places, and it makes you do things you would not normally do. Maybe you know, I've skipped family gatherings before to do a water change. Pathetic? Absolutely, but I've done it. So I want to thank Ben and Evan Alexander, IFG, for coming on today. Make sure and sub their channels. A link to their channels will be in the description of this video, as I said earlier. And thanks all for stopping by.